this topic here. It's a horror story for one person, but on the same side of the fence, it's a different story for somebody else. And this particular story, the customer feels it was a horror story, as were other contributors to the conversation are saying different. So that's the thing. You really have to evaluate what's going on. Is it a horror story? Did you get scammed? Did you not get scammed? And I think the best way to decide is by having a look and basically finding out, and leave your comment down below. All right, let's go through it. So this particular person was charged $350 on a Saturday night for somebody to go out and help him. So he's locked himself out. I'll just move my cat. There we go. All right. Before we get into that, let's first address the first problem in the room: King's Cross area. Okay. So anybody who lives in Sydney or knows Australia, they would know of King's Cross. King's Cross is where a lot of the seedy stuff happens. There's drugs, there's drug dealers, drug addicts, people on all sorts of things, homeless people, you name it, any sort of problem, it can all end up in King's Cross. Prostitutes on every corner, strip clubs on every corner, bars everywhere, young people out drinking, bottles being thrown, police attending all the time, vomit all over the place. It goes on and on and on. It's cleaned up a lot in the last few years, but it's maybe not the most desirable place you might want to go on a Saturday night. Okay. As far as parking, well, you're in the city. You're not going to get parking. There's lots of little dodgy laneways and things like that. It's very hard to get a park. I mean, don't get me wrong. Certain parts of that area have cleaned up and are quite exclusive, but anywhere around King's Cross is hard on a Saturday night. So this bloke got charged $350 for a lockout. So is that expensive? Is that dodgy? Is he getting ripped off? Is he getting scammed? Let's get into it. All right. This guy here seems to be another locksmith. I'm pretty sure he is. Let's see what he has to say. Some of the points that he's said, I pretty much agree with.
Different definition of dodgy, mate. I'm talking legality-wise. Expensive equals dodgy. Overcharging isn't dodgy, it's just bad practice. However, I have seen worse quotes than that for simple jobs on a Saturday night, which would be an after-hours call. It depends on the work done.
Pretty true. Pretty true. Just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's dodgy. This is the person who had to pay the money.
Dodgy v. Submit adjective British informal dishonest or unreliable. A dodgy second-hand car salesman, potentially dangerous. Activities like these could be dodgy for your heart, of low quality. Spurs' dodgy defense had thrown away a 2-0 lead. Synonyms: second-rate, third-rate, substandard, low-grade, low quality, cheap.
What the hell's that got to do with it? Saturday night, which we call an after-hours call. It depends on the work that was done. Okay, let's get back to the locksmith, what he says. I don't know what that last comment meant.
That's still not dishonest. He is out working on a Saturday and he can charge you whatever he wants. You should have gotten a quote before accepting the job. If he quoted you an amount and then changed it after the job was done, then that's a different story. But if you didn't check for price beforehand, that's on you.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. He can charge whatever he wants. I mean, getting somebody out there on a Saturday night is hard enough. And if you've got to pay them whatever you've got to pay them, if it means it's an extra 50 or an extra 100, extra 150 to get somebody out there, well, that's just the cost of actually getting somebody out there. If that's what the rate is, no one else will take the job. That's what the rate is. And if you get a quote beforehand, then it shouldn't be too big a problem. No one forces you to use that locksmith. It still doesn't mean dodgy. Now, there's a very true statement. No one is forcing the customer to use that particular locksmith. And at that price, doesn't mean he's ripping you off. I know it's a 5-minute job. If you want to look at it from another point of view, as far as rights of a worker, if that worker is actually working for a company and he's called out to that job, the company's received their work and they've said, okay, I want you to go out and do this job, the company would be responsible for paying that worker a minimum of 3 hours worth of work. Now, considering they're working on Saturday night and they've most likely worked the 40 or 45-hour week on top of that, it would most likely be time and a half or double time. I'd be going with more of double time, Saturday, middle of the night. So let's say double time, okay? Average locksmith about $50 an hour. So we're saying $100 per hour, minimum 3 hours. So we're saying $300 of cost to the business to send somebody out there. Now let's just look at tolls and petrol. Tolls at $8 or $10, plus parking, another $10, plus petrol, the cost of that, another $10, not including wear and tear, at $350. If that worker is being paid by the company for that job, as they should be, as to the law, they would only be breaking even at $350. So it's quite interesting that one person saying, this is a dodgy, I've been ripped off, horror story, and, been scammed. And then somebody else here is saying, no, it's not. It's not. And when you look at how much would actually need to be physically paid in respect to the law, then you kind of can see where this other guy here is coming from. Let's see what else he says about this.
Yes, price gouging is extremely dishonest. It's not really when it's after hours. Once again, if you didn't like the price, you should have called a different locksmith, sir.
Very true.
Is he the only one? How many of the other people who work Saturday night being paid that much per 5-minute job?
Plenty.
A trade service will charge you extra as Saturday is classified as after hours. This happens with plumbers, electricians, air conditioning servicemen, mechanics and whatever else. This isn't a new concept, and if you have an issue with that, you are better off taking it up with the trade union. Why do you just assume I didn't? Because you are acting like the bloke held you down and forced you to pay him when you are stripped for choice in such a situation. It is called price gouging, and it is very dodgy. This was not some luxury like concert tickets, which the government takes measures to prevent. Mate, unless you live out in the sticks, even then it's debatable, you will have plenty of locksmiths that will come out. I know of hundreds in the Greater Sydney area that would come out on a Saturday night. I am not saying that isn't outrageously expensive for a let-in, but I am willing to bet there are several other options you could have used before conceding to $350.
Too true. So he's saying it's not a luxury, but to actually have somebody come out and help you get you out of your problem is a luxury. There are other options out there, and it's not like it's a necessity where you can't. Like food, it's not a necessity like food. It's a luxury to have somebody come out within a certain time frame, fix the problem, get you back inside. I know it's stripped for choice, but there are other choices. You don't sleep on a park bench until your real estate comes home in the morning. You can do whatever you like. And there's also other locksmiths out there. There's plenty of other locksmiths you could have got other people, other quotes from as well. So I'm going with not unreasonable, expensive, sure. Just like when I go to a restaurant and they've got big fancy chandeliers and they charge me twice as much as what the other restaurant would charge me. My choice if I go there. Yes, I have to eat. Yes, I'm hungry, but it is my choice. And if the cheap restaurant has a queue that's going to take 2 hours before I get seated and the other one has no queue, you have to make your choice. And if one restaurant is available and the next restaurant is booked out and you can't find anywhere else to eat, you have to make your choice. So I'm going with not dodgy. Let's see what else. As far as trade union, you can't go to the trade union. No one's gonna care too much about this. They're just going to simply say, oh well, you made the choice, you made the agreement with them, you were happy to pay them, you paid them. Here is probably the takeaway from this story that's worth reading here. Let's just read that.
Mate, you're the one expecting a free ride from a tradie that's come to help you out on a Saturday night. Your lack of replying to any other point shows you have no point to make. I only said trade union because I don't know who you'd contact for something like this. Probably because no one will really help you. Please refer to the age-old saying, buyer beware.
Yep, I would agree with that. Buyer beware. If you're making an agreement with somebody and you'll come up with a price and you're happy to pay that price, you can't pretty much just pay that price and say, oh great, you got me out of trouble. A week later and now I'm shitty at you, because a lot of people, they see these things advertised on the internet and there's a lot of prices going around and they see a price $55, $29, $88, $120, and they think that this applies to any situation that they need. So it might be on a Sunday night and they need you at 3 o'clock in the morning and they say, oh, I need a locksmith, I'm going to Google it, $120, I'm happy to pay that. They ring, nobody's there, nobody's available, they can't find anybody for $120. So they take that out on basically anybody and everybody because that's all they're willing to pay. And I understand they don't really want to pay for these type of remedial work. Nobody does want to pay for work to fix a problem. It's like parking tickets. Nobody wants to pay them. Parking speeding fines. Nobody wants to pay them. But it's just one of those things that you get lumped with. So as far as saying that it was the locksmith who was dodgy, I'd have to say no. He still did come out there and help you and get you back into your unit. If not, the alternative was to hang on to your $350 and sleep on a park bench or something like those lines, which you'd probably wake up with a lot less than $350 in the morning. If you were to sleep on a park bench in King's Cross, you'd probably have a lot less. You would most likely get mugged. You would, who knows? So I think 350 is quite reasonable. I agree with Duty 1234. I agree with him. He seems to have identified the issues there. That no, you're not getting scammed. It's high, but it's not outrageous. $700, $800. Yeah, that's outrageous, and that we would probably be pushing over to the scam. This is more of an expensive service. So considering if the lock was open, picked, and no damage was done, well, that's fair enough to get a professional out there, I believe anyway. Leave your comments down below. What do you think? Is it a horror story at $350, or is it just somebody who's been helped, happy their problem's gone away, and now not grateful and regretting having purchased that expensive locksmith service to open it? The truth is, I don't think you would have found anybody else. If I was to ask any of our staff to go out to King's Cross on a Saturday night, middle of the night, and unlock a door, there would be swearing. No one would want to do it. Even if I was to say, look, it's $350. You've got to remember too, a lot of locksmiths work on a commission rate, so they're taking home, a commission. And even at $350, at the standard commission, which is in the industry, which is paid out, which is anywhere from 50 to 80%, they would still not want the job. Most people would not want the job. So that's the truth about it. Leave it down in the comments what you think, how you feel about it. And once again, thanks for watching.